Unfortunately, China has not responded positively to any of our asks. They are unfair traders, they are illegal traders, they have stolen our intellectual property.
So that sort of squares from Larry Kudlow with what we've heard from other officials about the talks with the Chinese being sort of in a stalemate or frozen at the moment. So no indication of what is going to break that logjam. But Larry Kudlow continuing with the tough rhetoric on China, this administration continuing to want some response from the Chinese, and they're just not getting it, guys.
Are you getting a sense, Eamon, about whether they keep going back to the table? I mean, is this a persistent conversation? Because just a couple months ago, we heard that there were no high-level talks going on with China where the trade war is concerned.
Right. Well, it depends on what level you're talking about, right? Because when you talk to White House officials, they say there are conversations going on between the United States and the Chinese every day at various levels, and it percolates up and down to the level of the officials who are involved. But as of right now, we're not hearing about any major high-level talks between the United States and the Chinese. So it might be that the Chinese want to wait and see how the midterm elections go before they go all in on some kind of negotiating strategy. They want to see, they will want to see just how strong politically this president is in the wake of those elections. If the Republicans lose the House, maybe you're dealing with a President Trump who's a little bit less powerful, a little bit less in charge here in Washington than he would have been otherwise. So there is some incentive for the Chinese side to stall a little bit ahead of those elections.
And the Secretary of State has returned now from the Middle East. What's the White House reaction to this ongoing drama with the disappearance and presumed death of the journalist Khashoggi?
Well, what we saw from Mike Pompeo is he came out to the driveway, delivered a short statement after meeting with the president in which he said that the United States wants to give the Saudi side more time, said a few more days at least to investigate what happened here. The trick is that critics of this White House say that the White House is simply allowing the Saudis to investigate themselves to find out whether or not they actually murdered this journalist. That's been the allegation from the Turks and from others, is that Jamal Khashoggi was killed in the Saudi consulate in Turkey. And how can you have the Saudis investigating that? What Mike Pompeo said to that question was, the American public will be able to determine how serious they think this investigation is once they see the results of that investigation. It's not, and U.S. officials caution that they are not going to rely entirely on the Saudi side of all this. But
Eamon,
they're not taking, yeah, go ahead.
In terms of the headline, though, that really seemed to impact the markets, that was Treasury Secretary Mnuchin tweeting that he will not be attending the Davos in the Desert summit in Saudi Arabia. But the tweet left a lot of unanswered questions, like why exactly he is not going and whether there would be a stop at all in Saudi Arabia. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, look at that tweet as a very diplomatically finessed tweet, right? I mean, Secretary Mnuchin says he's not going to what they call the Davos in the Desert conference in Saudi Arabia, but doesn't say he's not going because of Saudi Arabia's behavior, doesn't say he's doing this as a rebuke of Saudi Arabia in any way. So the United States wanting to sort of rebuke Saudi Arabia without officially saying that they're doing it or saying what exactly they're rebuking them for. And of course, it could be awkward if we're talking about the timing of a couple of days from now. It could be awkward to have Mnuchin in country in Saudi Arabia right when the resolution of this is happening. If the United States decides it needs to take more punitive action, they don't want to have the Treasury Secretary on the ground in Saudi Arabia at that time, sort of glad-handing with Saudi officials at the moment. They're trying to say something stern to the Saudi government. So for all those reasons, it makes sense for this administration to pull him out, but they're finessing it a little bit by not saying why exactly they're pulling him out.
The Saudi ambassador to the United States has gone home. Am I correct on that?
There have been reports to that effect, right. But we haven't seen the United States do things like we've seen in other diplomatic incidents where the United States can expel certain diplomats from that country. They can impose sanctions. There are a number of things diplomatically that countries do when they're in a dispute to signal that they're in that dispute. None of those are happening right now. And in fact, you saw that tweet from Mnuchin saying he's not going, but not even linking explicitly that to the disappearance of the Washington Post writer.